And boom, we are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Rehired Live, the live broadcast. And I'm excited. My name is Peter Clark, Red TV. And I want to welcome my really good friend here, Fran Strine from Power Chord Films, Hired Gun. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Everybody is experiencing a heat wave of some sort, no matter where they live. I know I am. I think you are.
It was 120 degrees in the valley yesterday, and I live in Santa Monica now. Just moved here yesterday. And it's still about 82 or 83, which is a major heat wave for this area. It's usually in the low 70s here. So
right.
Well, I hear a fan in the background. So
yeah, I was going to say to everybody, listen, don't adjust your sound. I'm going to pop Fran's sound in and out as we bring Rudy on, our guest today. And but if you're hearing that humming in the background, it's trying to keep him safe and sound from 106 degrees. Okay, everybody, just so you know. I want to welcome everybody as we stream on multiple different pages today. Okay, so we're streaming on multiple pages: Hired Gun, Power Chord Films, which of course is Fran Strine Official. Of course, official Rudy Sarzo, which is of course just giving away the whole intro right there. Red TV. So, Fran, listen, this is great. It's always fun to bring people back that you've worked with in, through Hired Gun and through your personal life in general as a photographer and people that you've met along the way in your career. Let's talk about our amazing guest today, your connection with Rudy, generally how you met and how he became part of Hired Gun, which he plays a major role in that film, by the way.
Right, he does, yeah. So when I interviewed Rudy the first time, his story was just so incredible, and his outlook on his job and profession really hit me hard, and exactly what Hired Gun is about. And I knew that he would be a major theme in that film, and he wound up being that. He was one of the first people I interviewed, probably about the third or fourth person. And his journey is incredible, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, it is an incredible journey. And you know what, again, when you start digging into these stories of these people, you don't recognize, well, first of all, how fast your life goes by. Because I mean, we've been listening to this guy since the 70s. I mean, and I just say that kindly because I was listening to it too. So, and here we are, it's close to 50 years later. It's just incredible, the amount of the bands, the music, the life that he's lived, and the people that he's played with, and so on. And again, dropping back to the film of Hired Gun, we so recommend, I do anyway, for everybody, please go out and either track that down, rent it, buy it. Where's the streaming right now, friend?
It's on Amazon Prime. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, it's free. If not, I think you can run it for a few bucks or whatnot. But it's on Apple TV, iTunes, anywhere you can rent a movie or something.
Absolutely. And again, Hired Gun, Rudy plays such a big role in that amazing story, amazing filming that you've done with that. I think we chatted about that one time. The whole part of some of the interviews you did with Rudy were just so moving. And I'm really excited to bring him on. So without further ado, let's bring our special guest today, a bass legend. That's what I mean. If I started listing everything, we'd run out of our hour. So I'm going to bring on the one and only Rudy Sarzo. Rudy, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I love this heat. It's about 120 in my room here. I'm from Havana, so this is like Christmas time.
Ah.
Yeah. I can't stand it.
I think there's a song in there somewhere, Christmas in Havana. There's got to be.
It's 120 degrees. I think there's already one of those. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Navidad.
And where are you experiencing it right now, Rudy? Where are you calling in from?
Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills. Got it. Yeah. Okay, well, so thank you for joining us today. We so appreciate that. So talk to us a little bit about. Let's just jump right into that with that intro with Fran. Your relationship with Fran and that movie. What was that like for you? Just generally speaking, to experience that movie, because I thought, first of all, your segments are outstanding because they're so have so much depth to the story. How did you come about? Being in the film, and what's your thoughts on that since it's been out 3-4 years now? So
basically I got, just like everything else, it starts with a call, and Fran called, and we talked about it, and I thought it was going to be a very interesting premise. And of course, I watched the film for the first time even before it was shown for the premiere, because I went up to San Francisco and I saw what at the what was that at the Lucas Theater, George Lucas.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The first, yeah.
yeah,
You
yeah.
saw the rough cut before he
I
got a
saw a rough
sound
cut.
mixed and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah, and that was the first time that I actually got to watch the whole documentary, which means that I got to watch everybody else's contribution.
Right.
Because when you do an interview like this, it's just you on camera,
Right.
and Fran was really great about making me feel comfortable and safe to talk about very private matters, such as the loss of Randy Rose, during the plane crash. And I have written a book about it, and it's very hard for me to talk about it because I can't talk about it without going there. I have to go and be in the moment and basically describe what I experienced along with everybody else. So it's always tough. So when I wrote the book Off the Rails, it was basically a way of putting it on paper and say, okay, if anybody asks me, it's in the book. Go read the book. But with Fran, it was different because we built up to that. It was not just a documentary asking me about the crash. So by the time we actually got to the segment that I was talking about, the part in my career about Randy's crash, I was already comfortable with him. So even though I had to go there again and describe it, it was a very safe situation for me emotionally, because it is very emotionally disturbing to relive it every time you talk about it,
Of course.
And I try to avoid it at all times, but the way that with Fran in the room, he had a way about it that it was almost therapeutical therapy.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful,
yeah.
and thank you for going there right away with us and back, because we know we'll point to the movie for people to understand the context of what you're talking about, and the details of what you're describing right now can be found in your book, and you'll always go to Google and learn that stuff. So thank you for going there right away, Fran. I mean, that's a big compliment to have someone to suggest that sitting in front of a camera to allow them to be so vulnerable. I think that's kudos to you for your filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So I got to tell you, Rudy, when, if you remember, there was a second time that I came to interview you that you went into depth about the tragic incident with Randy. Mm-hmm. We kind of glazed over at our first interview. Mm-hmm. And while we're looking at the screening back the footage with the editor, I'm like, man, I was like, I knew that you're going to be a main theme in the film. Mm-hmm. But we kind of glossed over the accident. In a way that I wanted to be respectful to you and Randy's family, because I know they'd be seeing it probably, and to the audience, no reverence. And man, did you go there? I mean, I remember calling you. I was like, I'd like to come talk a little bit more about this. You agreed to it, and you can see it in your face on the interview. Man, you went there really, and we went there with you, because afterwards I was crying. I don't know if you remember, but it was tough, man. That was challenging.
It's tough.
Yeah. And hopefully you never have to talk about it again, because it's not only your book, but now it's in this film.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other time that I've been able, and I feel comfortable, actually, I thought it was a must that I reveal my emotions and what I experienced during the crash, was with Jack Osborne's film about Ozzy that he did for his dad.
Right.
And because him being Ozzy's son and not being around at that time to even have an idea of what it was like, I had to tell him. It was a must, for him to know exactly, since he asked me about it. And what happened is, and of course, again, I have no idea what it was going to be, my portion of the film, because it's a wonderful film, the one that Jack did for his dad. And I sat down with Sharon. There was a preview of the film in a small theater in Hollywood, and I sat with her. She came over to me, grabbed my hand, and said, "Sit with me and watch the whole thing together." And she held my hand during the whole documentary, and it was an incredible, just incredible experience. To sit there with her and watch this. Ozzy was not in the room; he was not in the place, but everybody else was. A lot of the musicians that play with Ozzy, Robert Trujillo and Blasco, and of course Jack, and the family and everybody. So it was a very moving experience.
Yeah. It's credit to you, Fran, for to be able to take that moment and bring it. So just as a reminder, everybody, Hired Gun, you'll get all the details there. And of course you can go to Rudy's book as well. Rudy, let's jump to something you started off with. I think you said Christmas. We talked about Christmas in Havana. Yes. You were born in Havana, and man, that is, I tell you, I've traveled a lot with a couple airlines here, and have done a lot of filming for vacation destinations and all that stuff. And when anyone asks me what's my favorite place to visit, I always say Havana. I always tell them Havana. Now, you were also old enough. You were there right up until 1961. So I just have to ask you, I mean, that little piece of your life, I mean, I'm assuming you remember quite vividly what was going on, obviously, in 1958, 59, and 60. How did that affect your family, and you as a person? How do you think that affected you when even before you came to America?
Well, I mean, I experienced living in Cuba before communism, and then when communism came in, and so I lived through that, and then my family moved to Miami, and it's very interesting. It was a whole different United States back then, and it was different in a way that there was not a whole lot of Latinos. There was no real Latin communities. And even in Miami, they were trying to avoid what eventually happened, which is a major influx of the Latin community, the Cubans that came from Cuba, because there was not enough industry to sustain everybody that was coming in. So my family were basically relocated. We had no much choice. It was like my dad wanted to work immediately, and he had a language barrier, and it was like, okay, we're gonna relocate you, and here are the choices. So my family chose New Jersey, so we moved to New Jersey, and it was a bit of a cultural shock because we had never experienced that northeast weather before, snow and all that coming from the Caribbean, so we had to adapt, and I had to adapt. I understood, it's a matter of survival. I learned at a very early age to survive things,
right.
No matter what, it's not a matter of everything that I face, I will survive.
Right. And it wasn't obviously just the weather. I mean, I know what you're leading to. I mean, obviously you were thrown into probably a neighborhood that you were obviously, and a community that maybe you didn't really recognize to be, you didn't assimilate. Did you find that you assimilated quickly? Did you jump right into the American culture? Was it a struggle for you as a child, or do you remember even thinking like that as you're growing up?
Well, since you bring it up, I find it very interesting that everybody in my neighborhood, West New York, at the time, they were all basically newly arrived immigrants. So everybody was going through the same experience. They were either Puerto Ricans, some Italians who had been there a couple of generations, but nevertheless, they still retain their culture. Polish, Jewish, some Latins, like I mentioned, Puerto Ricans, and and from other Latin countries. And so if you look at the last couple hundred years when immigrants started coming in, especially the East Coast, they were coming from all over the place. If you look at like early New York in the late 1800s, there were immigrants coming from all of Europe, basically. and they all had like their little neighborhoods, Little Italy, Little Germany, the Jewish sector, and Chinatown, and this and that. And they were kind of like trying to survive in their own, they were struggling. They were coming to a new country, but then again, somehow there was a network that got created,
right,
for each culture. So it's kind of like you're bringing in there, and trade also. Like, if you went to Chinatown or Italy, or Little Italy, Italian food.
right.
If you wanted to get some jewelry or fabrics, you go to the Jewish, part of town. Little things like that. And interesting enough, Havana was pretty much like that.
Havana. So you felt a mixture of cultures in Havana prior to the revolution. Wow.
Where I lived, I mean, as a matter of fact, the first people to actually tell my parents, like, think about getting out of here, were the Chinese friends that we had in our neighborhood, because they came to Cuba from China because of Mao Zedong. So they escaped there. They went to Cuba. They thought they were safe, and there you go. It happens. So they moved immediately. They went to San Francisco, to the Chinese community up there. But it's funny because my mom, well, in Cuba they refer to the Jewish community as Polacos, because they came from Poland. Polacks.
Yeah, right.
Los Polacos. It was not, Los Judíos. No, it was Los Polacos. As a matter of fact, if you go to Miami, there's a lot of Cuban temples, Jewish temples out there, And so everybody, again, it was kind of like the same as even in the Northeast, New Jersey, New York area, where there were neighborhoods of certain cultures. They live in those neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And and because of all of that culture that you were exposed to, I've read somewhere, and I've listened to you speak about this a couple times. I mean, your influence is obviously from music, with it, in Cuba, big bands, swing, jazz, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that being associated with a lot of those different cultures, also did you learn from those cultures with music? For example, you mentioned Poland. So, I mean, did you learn different styles of music from different people you might have hung out with because of the cultural groups that you grew up with?
That's a good question, but I don't think so. And because when I was in Cuba, it was primarily Cuban music, Afro-Cuban music. It was either boleros, or very danceable, African influence music, right? And then when I moved to New Jersey, even though I was surrounded by different cultures, Puerto Ricans and Italians and Polacks and Germans and whatever, with the kids, the community, the kids, as soon as the Beatles came out,
right,
that's how we connected. Every culture, music connected us. All of this, it was like, this is the common denominator. Music, right. So you could be in a little band with a bunch of different guys from different countries, and it's been like that with me ever since. I rarely ever play with another Cuban in the band.
You really don't, or you really do? You really do? Or don't?
I rarely do. The last time I played with a primarily Cuban band was back in the '60s when I was in Miami.
Right.
That was it. Yeah. Prior,
right.
I mean, after that, it was all, a mix. It could be a mix. You could be Italian, from New York that came down to Florida, like let's say Frankie Benelli. He's right. Italian. His family moved from up New York to Fort Lauderdale, and we started playing together. And Carlos Cavazo, his father is from Mexico. That's about it. So, but it's let's say even I'm playing with the Guess Who. So I'm playing with,
yes,
in the band we have Gary Peterson, he's from Winnipeg, and then we have Derek Sharp, who is our lead singer. He's actually he's from Thunder Bay, that area.
Yeah,
but he lives in Toronto. Leonard Leonard Shaw, keyboard player. He's from Winnipeg also. Our other guitar player, Will Ivankovich, he lives in Nashville, but he's from Northern California, and I'm from all over the place. So I love it because again, it's all about the music. It's not about where we come from. It's the music. We'll speak music.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you, Rudy.
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at your roster of guitar players that you've played with, Randy Rhoads, Brad Gillis, Steve Vai, John Sykes.
I didn't play. No, I didn't.
You didn't play with Sykes?
No. When I was
Adrian Vandenberg,
Vivian Campbell, and Steve Vai. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And some of the drummer, man, Tommy Aldridge, Whitesnake and Ozzy's band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played with him in Ozzy and Whitesnake and a couple of other projects.
Yeah, and the thing that I noticed about you, your stage presence, is like a lot of the eyeballs are looking at the guitar players and all their tricks and stuff, but your stage presence is so cool. I remember seeing you in Atlanta, Georgia at the Omni on Christmas Eve. I think it was called Christmas Eve Massacre. It was Quiet Riot and Wasp.
Wow.
I was there.
That.
Yeah. It was like 84, 85 maybe.
80 if it was it was actually in 84 because we were on tour with Wasp. That I believe that was the last tour I did in the States with Quiet Riot. And then I reunited in 97, but an arena tour headlining.
Yeah, I was there on the floor watching the show. I just remember your stage antics, man. I mean, you're all over the place, and I think I saw Quiet Riot too with Iron Maiden.
Oh yeah. The Omni. For that show with Wasp, did you get hit by any raw chicken?
Because I did, but I saw that. Yeah, but I did buy a Quiet Riot mask.
Yeah.
At the merch booth. Yeah. I remember Blackie. Yeah.
Blackie used to throw raw chicken.
Yeah. That was part of the show. Like raw chicken was part of the show.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
But we already did that with Ozzy. We used to have a dwarf during the Diary of a Madman tour, and he used to drag a bucket of raw meat across the stage and throw it at the audience as we're playing. Yeah. Sure.
That makes sense. So Rudy, let me take you back if you don't mind. I know I'm not starting anything, but talk about your family and coming over from Cuba. Of course, you come over with a brother and.
Yeah,
his brother picks up a guitar, you pick up a bass, but I don't know if people know a lot about your brother, but I just want to mention Robert and the connection you mentioned. We were talking about Randy, obviously. Is it true? I thought I read somewhere, was he actually considered as a replacement at one time?
Yeah, he was. He actually, after Randy passed away, there was a bunch of auditions, and unbeknownst to us, Bernie Torme already had the gig. That's how he got flown and paid for. He got paid for the tour already. So he couldn't understand why we were auditioning guitar players while he was already there sitting on the corner. And, first of all, it was chaotic. There was no, we didn't even have fax back then. This is 1982. Right. There was fax, but it was not common,
Right.
So the communication between the office, Jet Records in London, and where Bernie came from. He was hired from London and put on a plane to start touring with us. There was no communication. So once it was announced that my brother got the gig, that's when Bernie said, "Oh, but I already been paid for the gig." So that happened.
Wow. So, but I bring that up only because, first of all, obviously your brother then is simply even at that time was considered an amazing guitar player. Yeah. Was he at that time? Was he kind of like a hired gun at that time, or did he have his own band, or what was?
Was he? One thing about a hired gun, you can be both. You can have your band and be a hired gun, especially now more than ever, because it was actually frowned upon by the fans If, for example, David Lee Roth in the 80s puts out an EP, solo EP, and people are going, "Oh, he's leaving Van Halen," which they were right. He was going to leave, but putting together an EP, it sent certain messages,
Right.
maybe to the guys in the band, maybe to the fans. But nowadays, you can be in a band, you can be a special guest, you can record with a bunch of people. Nobody, and you're actually expected to do that.
Right.
Nobody says, "Oh, they're leaving a band because they're recording with somebody else." So yes, he had other things going on at the time.
Right. Yeah, at the time, right?
Yeah.
And did you guys growing up? Did you play music together? Like when you start picking up instruments, and I know that you played other instruments as well, but learning big band and jazz and these kinds of influences. Was your brother kind of tagging along with you along that journey, or were you guys far enough in age that none of that you didn't growing up jamming together?
Yeah, well, we did sort of. We did play before we, as a matter of fact, we were in a band together when we left Miami in the early 70s. We left Miami because disco came in and we couldn't really, play rock. So we decided to go up to, Utica, New York, that area up there. And so we were in a band together. And then he got married. He started his own life, and I went on my own. That's when I started. I went from New Jersey to Chicago. Spent a lot of time in the Chicago area playing, and wound up in Los Angeles.
Right. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, I saw an old video just recently. I just want to know, do you guys still kind of play together a little bit, or do you get together? The last time I saw you on stage with each other was probably 2016-ish. Have you played since that time?
No, we did the NAMM show this year.
Cool. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I love the fact that, I mean, again, when I looked up your brother, when I was researching you, and I was like, this is what's so great about music. I mean, you start digging into these stories, and I'm just being transparent. I really didn't know that about your brother. I didn't know he was, such a phenomenal player. I've watched some of his videos and some live shows that you've done with him where you jump up on stage and stuff. I just think it's just an amazing part of your life that maybe some people have not dug into yet.
See, I got to see Robert play in Hurricane.
Oh, yeah.
But Hurricane was playing with, when I saw them, with Striper. Instead of throwing chicken, they were throwing out mini Bibles.
Yes. Yes.
From chicken to mini Bibles. Okay.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm not kidding. Yeah.
He's done the whole thing. So, Rudy, I'm going to switch it right up all together here. Switch it all together. I'm trying to get it all over the place because I love the nuances of your life, and your story is amazing. Yeah. You post a lot of stuff about animals and shelters and stuff. And I just think, first of all, I just want to applaud you on that, because to me, that's philanthropy. That's giving back and making a difference. And so where does that come from for you? First of all, not just the love of animals, but your desire to want to help in that way and use your name in that way.
Yeah. I mean, it surprises me that people ask me about it, because it should be something that everybody does. It's like you asking me, "Wow, you breathe. Wow, you're breathing. That's amazing. Tell me about breathing." It's breathing. It's such a natural act to want to help. Animals. I help people. Help. And I mean, we're here for a very short amount of time, and the more love we give and the more things we do, the better place we leave, because we're kind of like hanging here. We're moving on somewhere else, and it's up to us within our reach of influence and contributions. It's up to us to actually make positive ones and leave the place a better place than when we got here.
Wow, I love that. And okay, so let me very quickly answer that question. You're surprised when people answer. You're singing to the choir. That is my philosophy as well about, philanthropy, meaning, the love of humanity, giving it back, making a difference, being kind to things. Like, why is that special? But, I'm just going to say to you right now that not everyone does that. And the fact that you take the time to do that, I applaud you for it. And I just wanted to make sure people, people know that that's the kind of person you are. You branched into another subject real quick there, though, about we're just here for a little bit. And I remember in Fran's movie, Hired Gun, you talked about making peace in your spirituality, and you're really into that. Is that still a really giant piece of your life right now, the spirituality part of it?
More than ever well, more than it has been the last 40 years, because it's and at some point I would like to go back to the philanthropy, because
Sure.
I'm part of a charity organization based in Canada.
Oh, let's keep going. Keep going with that. We'll jump back to the spirituality then, because I know that's a big
because
subject.
I'm in that mindset now, but I didn't want to lose that piece of conversation.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
And so, anyways, oh yeah, it's it was very interesting when I found peace, made peace with God. I was at my lowest point materially. I was living on the floor. I mean, my conditions were like the lowest they have ever been. But my spirituality was at its highest. I mean, if you could really wrap your head around that, and I spent the last 40 years coming out of being a starving musician, and struggling, to all of a sudden I'm on this path ever since 1981, when I started playing with Ozzy, because one situation, went right into the other, from Ozzy, then with the mental health version of Quiet Riot, and then Whitesnake later on, and then Dio and Quiet Riot reunions, and so I've had a pretty good solid career, Blue Oyster Cult and things like that, right? And I don't know, I spent my life trying to make it perfect, accumulating things, because I thought, okay, now that I have achieved this, I'm in the pursuit of happiness, because everybody talks about the pursuit of happiness.
Right. Right.
And I came to realize that you will never be completely happy, because once you find that one thing that makes you happy, you're going to want something else.
Right. Now, you're talking about things. You're talking about things. You were trying to find comfort through things. Is that what you mean by that?
Life is full of things,
Right. Physical thing, tangible thing.
I'm looking at your room, and you got a lot of things in your room.
They're all props. They're all just props.
Right?
But I know what you're saying.
There are things that make you happy. And I'm sure that you look around your room, and that thing that's making you happy now, in a couple of years, it's not going to make you happy, because technologically, it could be obsolete. It's like, let's say I got my latest iPhone. I'm very happy. Well, in about a year from now, the Apple people are going to say, you know what, that iPhone that you just bought that you're really happy with about a year ago, a lot of the apps don't work anymore. You have to upgrade to the new iPhone. And they make it a way that you have to. And that iPhone will make me happy. But it's a continuation of the pursuit of happiness, whether it's technology or your living conditions or things like that, right? And to me, I came to the conclusion, that I needed to go back to peace. Peace. Without inner peace, you'll never be happy. So peace have become back again, finding peace. I was happy with nothing, but because I was peaceful about it. I was peaceful about my relationship with my creator. I mean, some people might call it the universe. Some people might call it God. They apply some religion to it. But at the end of the day, it's all the same thing.
Right.
To me, in my humble opinion.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, what's fascinating about that is that you were able to dig into that while you were surrounded by, let's be frank, I mean, just the kind of the opposite of spirituality at that time, right? I mean, you were in a heavy metal rock band, you're touring the world, you're playing, probably with musicians that, and people that were surrounding you were probably on a much different path than trying to find inner peace, right? And where did you pull that from? Like, does it come from your family? Does it come from what? I mean, you pulled it from somewhere. I'm just curious of where that came from.
Yeah. Seek and you will find. I mean, it sounds like cliche, but it's true. I mean, that's what I was looking for. Peace at a very disturbing time in my life, because I had nothing. And it's not because people say, well, you got nothing to lose. No, I had everything to lose. I had everything to lose. I had myself to lose. Everything else is an acquisition. You know, whether you're buying a car, you're buying a house, you're buying guitars or whatever. And everything has a shelf life. Even you have a shelf life in this planet, you know. But it was more about, I understood that would never make me completely happy. It was peace. I have to be at peace first and able to really acquire things that might give me some satisfaction or happiness. But from the very beginning, I knew, as a matter of fact, I didn't start buying stuff until I got married. Because when you buy things for somebody else, you know, for a long time, I only had 1 or 2 basses until people started giving me instruments.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they wanted to work with me and the company and things like that. And I always thought it was a priority for me to take care of my family, being my wife for 36 years. And I got more satisfaction, more joy, more happiness about buying things that I know will make her happy. Like, you know, she usually picks the houses that we buy, because I will be on the road and she'll go looking for one. And I say, okay, you're happy in that house. That's the most important thing. When I went from like having no car to having my my first vehicle as a musician, which was a brand new Corvette, 1985 model Corvette that we bought in 83. No, actually it was in 84. It was the first year of that redesign. She's the one who went and bought it. I was on the road.
Right.
She drove it out of the lot and she was very happy. That gives me a lot of joy.
That gives you joy.
Yeah.
Well, I get that. No, I really do.
Yeah.
And I really do. And because I know what you're saying about this stuff. It's I feel the same way. I resonate with you, my friend. I really, really do.
Yeah.
Can I steer you back to some of your thoughts about philanthropy and your connection to a charity you wanted to talk about, or
Yes,
an organization?
It's a charity called BANC, BANC, Benevolent Artists National Charity. And we do a lot of work so far in Winnipeg. In Calgary. It's actually based out of Calgary. Yeah.
Now, you know that's where I'm calling you from, right? Do you know that?
Oh, really? You're in Calgary. Okay.
I'm
So
in
you
Calgary.
know the National Music Center. We have been involved with the National Music Center, the NMC, for the last maybe 4 or 5 years. And we do usually in October, and we have events. We play at the what's that little club attached with the Rolling Stones Mobile?
You talking about the King Eddie? King Eddie.
Yes. Yeah. We do performances there. We do performances in the actual National Music Center venue. You know, we did one. I forget the name of what's the name of the arena? Oh, it's like an beautiful auditorium downtown Calgary.
Oh, so you could have been in. Let me just think where you might have been. Hold on a second. Keep going with your stuff. Just let me.
Big place. Yeah. We did it in October. We did a show there with Emmylou Harris, and the actual members of the of BANC, of the charity organization, is one of them is Sass Jordan.
Oh, another Canadian. There you go.
Wow. Yeah, I know it's a lot of Canadians. Yeah,
I did not know this.
Yeah, and the chief is his name is Jim Carter. Jim Carter. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
I did not know. I think Jubilee would have been at the Jubilee. Does that sound correct to you? The Jubilee Theater? I'm just curious. I'll look it up. I'll look up where you are, but I definitely want to. So let me remind myself of this. So we're talking about this charity that you're working with now. I mean, you're still directly involved, obviously, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm one of the founding members of the charity. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that. Again, that's that idea of philanthropy and giving back, and making a difference. And I know I love your spirit about that, which is like, well, why would I have to explain that to anybody? But and so to connect that with you, just so you know, I have a cable television network license for a channel called the Philanthropy Channel. So there you go.
Very cool.
So that's it. So we'll talk about that another time.
Really?
But anyway,
Really?
yeah,
Well,
that's why I love philanthropy and
well,
giving back and making a difference.
yeah, James Carter's family, they're very much involved with the with television and all, you know, technology. His wife is Heather Shaw.
Oh.
Shaw. Yeah.
Okay.
You know Heather? You know Heather?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, so Jim is her husband. So yeah, they're very involved.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
All right. So you ate at a chop house in Calgary then. You went down to the chop house before, did you? With Jim?
Where?
It's called the chop house. No.
Where's that at?
It's like a steakhouse downtown. Just curious.
And they have a dining room downstairs.
You've been there?
Yeah. Wonderful place. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right.
Yeah,
You do know Calgary. You do know Calgary.
Yeah. We stay at the Arts Hotel and hang out there, and
I love it.
Yeah.
Brand.
Yeah. I was going to say Liberty and I stayed at that same hotel.
Right.
I love it there.
Yeah.
I love it there. Really? Wow.
Yeah. We got white hatted, which is a big thing in Calgary to get the white hat.
Yeah, white hat is kind of like it's kind of like that.
You know, Rudy, the thing that I loved about you and the reason I made such a big story out of you, a big meal of you and Hired Gun was because of your outlook. You know, I thought that was important for other musicians. And I got to tell you, man, to this day still, I get so much fan mail about you and your story and how it touched everybody. How's the reaction been for you since Hired Gun came out?
A lot of people, I get a lot of messages on social media and things like that. And, one of the things that I wanted to the message that I want to deliver to the musicians, especially the young ones that approach me based on the Hired Gun documentary. It's the importance and the advantage of being hired and mentored by, in my case, Ozzy, Ray Parker with Stevie Wonder, Steve Lukather. He had so many people that he's worked with, because you can go to school and learn theory music, which is that's going to give you the tools to excel, but it's the experience and the mentoring at the level of a recording and touring experience. I mean, you can't get that in school. That's real. That's life, and becoming a hired gun, especially at a very young age, is the greatest experience you're ever going to have. Outside of school. School is for academia, but I'm talking about real life experience. That's why Jimi Hendrix keeps asking, "Are you experienced?"
Yeah. Another thing that I found that was pretty interesting was, I know why you left Ozzy's band, but it was you always knew when to exit. Situation. Talk about that.
Well, the exit sometimes it's the only door that's open, because put it this way, when there's certain clarity to where you're at in life, it's not about the money. I mean, I left some of the biggest bands because it was not about the money. It was about peace of mind again. And my wife, she's been with me through all of them, and she never ever made any remarks like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing leaving Ozzy?" or "Why are you leaving Quiet Riot?" At their peak, in 1984. No, because she understood. There's something about when you have a relationship that works, that you tune into the same channel and you understand things. What affects me affected her too, emotionally, So sometimes that decision that you make, it's the only decision that you have. It's not a matter of different doors to walk through. It's the only door.
Yeah. That's a great point. A friend that you mentioned of knowing kind of when to kind of get in and get out, and Rudy. What strikes me is it sounds painfully obvious that those decisions were more based center with your spirit as opposed to seeing the opportunity of saying, I should go with this band or I should go with another band because of the tour, the album, the opportunity. You were trying to find some way to I guess bridge those two worlds, because if you think about it, I certainly do, that world is chaotic at best, and you're a person trying to make a living and support a family, and then yet you're still trying to stay centered with yourself. That must have been a constant battle for you with you.
It was.
Or a challenge, I could say.
And the battle did not end when I moved on. It lingered because even years after, even let's say from I left Quiet Riot in 84, by 87 I was with Whitesnake. We were incredibly successful and so on. There was this lingering if question. People ask me if questions anymore, and I tell them, listen, I don't believe in if. And I tell you why I don't believe in if. Because I had this if. What if I would have stayed in Quiet Riot and try to work things out with the guys and blah, blah, blah. You know. And again, there's no reflection on Frankie Benali because it had nothing to do with him. Okay. So I did. We reunited in 97. You know. And it's the if, what would have happened if, got answered within about 5 years. You know, 97, by 2003, if REHIRED is Ugly Head, the answer, because I stuck with it. This time it's like things began to happen, and I said, no, I'm not going to move on. I'm not going to move on because I must come to a closure. I need closure with this. And the answer revealed itself.
Right.
You know, when the band just imploded.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I stuck with it. And I got my answer. So my if now becomes, the answer becomes like, you know what? There's no if. It's going to happen no matter what. If you know that you have to move, it cannot be fixed. You must move on and not think about, well, what if I stayed? Yeah, no, because that situation would have had the same outcome.
Right.
Whether you
So being a spiritual person, you believe, and this is, do you believe in predestinate? Do you destiny? I mean,
I do.
Kind of fate? Is that the right word? Fate?
I believe that we're heading towards an outcome, but how we get there and when we get there, it's up to us.
Wow, that is amazing.
We're all gonna die.
Right. Yes.
So how we get there, when we get there, is up to us.
Right. But along the way is I mean, we're really, I understand what you're getting at right now, but along the way, it's these daily decisions that decide the future. Because I think I've heard you say that before, actually. I think it's in the film, if I'm not mistaken, where you say, you know, what we do today is going to, you know, show up tomorrow.
Absolutely. But no matter what, we're going to die. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to everybody, but
you know,
that's going to happen.
That's funny the way you say that. My dad, when he was dying of cancer, he passed 3 years ago. He just looked at me. He was like, you know, the doctor told me 10 out of 10 people are going to die. It's going to happen. You know? 10 out of 10. Yeah, for sure.
It's super insightful. I love hearing this because it for me, just as a fan, it puts in perspective when I'm listening to your music or listening to things and projects that you're part of. I can weigh out in my mind your thoughtfulness and how you live your life. And so when I watch what you do, I can then try to connect the dots and vicariously live through, why did he choose this? And why does he want to go in this route? And so that's why I just find it fascinating that you share those kinds of things. I do want to throw in there that you talking about advice or not, I guess not giving advice. You talk about talking to other musicians and so on. I love the word you use when you talk to people you talk about hired gun, getting the call back and all that. Where does that come from? Your best advice you seem to give, and I'll just throw it out and see if I'm right. You talk about the word trustworthy.
Yeah, trustworthy.
Can you speak to that about? Because I think to the movie Hired Gun, it's all about getting the call back, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's all about the trust, but you know, before I get there, because it's intertwined with trust, I want to address what Fran said about, having family members or people that we know who are suffering from a terminal illness or something that could be put in remission, but sooner or later is going to show up again, and you just keep fighting it. It to me is how you handle it, how you handle, how you treat life when you're told, you only have so much to live. The choices you make. I know people who you're suffering a terminal disease and they're more alive and they're contributing more with their lives than they were, or just as alive as they have always been. That basic death sentence that the doctor gives you has no effect on them as far as like giving up. They don't give up. They don't. They put up the biggest fight of their life. And that's how precious life is. And the dignity that we live with as we are getting closer to the last breath is what we leave with those who are left behind. That's what we learn from. That living or dying by example. The example that you make as your days become numbered. That says so much about the people in your life.
Right.
It really does. And the quality of the people in your life.
I just couldn't agree with you more, and I just love the fact that you tie it directly to again such a strong word, trust. I think that's what Fran, and Fran demonstrated that in the film. You talked about it earlier in the film where you had to be very vulnerable and you had to trust that Fran, had you, while he was pulling that story out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have people who have been given the news, and they trust you. They trust you not to tell anybody else until the time that they choose that the world must know. And you live with that because sometimes you cannot even tell, like in my case, my wife about it. It's just between this person and me. There's a trust that must not be, I'm trying to find the right word, it's a trust that you have to treat it as it is,
Right.
And it's something that at the same time you're trying your best to give the person some sort of hope, but it's very delicate.
Right.
Because it's you don't want to give them false hope. You don't want to be shallow. You want to be supportive. That's all you can do. Be supportive.
Right.
And it's the pain of keeping that knowledge because you don't have anybody else. Because the person says, "Listen, I trust you that you're not going to tell anybody."
Right.
It ends right here, right?
Right.
So there's emotionally you're going through something yourself, and the best that I can do is the people that in my inner circle of my life, my everyday life, I have to say, listen, I'm going through something that I cannot share with you right now, because you will be affected by it emotionally, but you don't want to break the trust of what it is. And then at some point the person says, okay, I must reveal to the world, and then you can actually share it.
Sure. Do you mind if I take you in a direction that's similar to what I'm hearing? And it's only because I've read it even on your postings and stuff. A good friend of yours. Can you take me to Frankie Benali? Can we just throw out some positive vibes about Frankie? I know
he's a fighter. He's a fighter. He's an incredible fighter. I mean, he's been a fighter since I've known him. I met him in 1972, and on my birthday, I met him at a club, and we started playing immediately. and he's a mentor, because I was very much in the Latin circuit in Miami, and I started going to Fort Lauderdale, which is a whole different county, from Miami, because that's where rock bands actually played, and that's where the club circuit of rock bands used to play at this place called the Flying Machine. And yeah, you could see rock bands in arenas and small theaters in Miami, but not necessarily up and coming bands. And they were really accessible. You could really, if you got into that circuit in Fort Lauderdale, it means that you were playing at the same stages and the same clubs as the people that were coming from, musicians from upstate New York, really guys who were in between where I was, and that's them, the club circuit, and then there's the arena guys.
Right.
They were on their way to becoming those, and I learned a lot from them. I learned a whole lot, because just watching them playing every night, because I was, we would share the stage, we would be on the same night. They would have us, the local band, and then they would have these guys who would come in from New York or whatever, Atlanta. And man, yeah, that was to me, that was the biggest learning experience I had right before I went to the Sunset Strip, which was another layer of experiencing, things. Because because I mean, the closer you get to the industry, the closer you get to the real deal. You get to then you start getting mentoring by the music industry rather than other musicians. Once you came to LA, the way it was back in the 70s and 80s, So and yeah, there was not much mentoring in Miami. The mentoring happened outside of Miami, because by these very experienced musicians, And Frankie was definitely the one that I played with that really mentored me in how to be a bass player.
That's great. I mean, I just wanted to mention that because I know it's on top of mind, and we're sending positive vibes out through this recording as well. And I think you're going to be doing something. There's a fundraiser of some sort that's happening as well, or some sort of event that's coming. I'm sorry, I don't have the details to put up right now, but anyway, please follow. If you go to Rudy's page, there's some posts on there that would definitely be appreciated if you check them out. Fran?
Yeah. Hey, Rudy, man. I just, sincerely thank you for being in Hired Gun, because you elevated me as a filmmaker better putting those scenes together, because they were challenging on what to keep and what not to keep. Because all of it was gold. It could have been a whole movie on just Rudy Sarzo. Seriously, man, the stories. I mean, there's stuff we didn't get to touch upon, like the ladies of the rainbow that took care of you guys. And, ladies, and I think you told me a story. Maybe there was a premonition that you're going to be joining Whitesnake, as David Coverdale came up to you at one point, was like, you're going to be in my band, or
because we have been touring together. Yeah, we have been touring together. Whitesnake, a special guest with Quiet Riot in 1984. So the last night, of the tour, we're having a little party after the show, and he gives me a hug as he's leaving, and he says, "We're going to be playing soon, someday, whatever." And so that happened. Yeah. As a matter of fact, yesterday we had the 30th anniversary of the Donington show that we did. Manchester Rock Show. Yeah,
that's right.
So we all reunited.
That was amazing to see you guys on that screen. I saw someone grab that capture. I didn't see the show myself. Is it still available or is it it's still available? Okay, great.
It's free. Just go down to Whitesnake TV, I guess, on YouTube. Whitesnake, the channel, the Whitesnake channel.
Yeah,
and it's there. Just click on it.
I just love seeing you guys all on the screen at the same time after all these years. What did that feel like? I mean, it's just like going back to seeing old high school buddies and stuff.
Oh yeah, it was so great. I mean, we always had fun. Yeah, and it was great. It was like a reunion, like a high school reunion, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So listen, we're getting near the end of the interview. We so appreciate your time. So I just want to make sure I jump into a couple of things. First of all, you're so kind, as we can hear in your languaging and so on. You didn't I asked you openly just before we went on, said, "Hey, do you want me to to promote anything for you?" And you're like, "No, everything's good." But Eddie, I do want to promote for you about Monsters of Rock Radio, 6 degrees from Sarzo. Talk about that. Is that a fun process for you? Interviews, music, that kind of thing on the radio. How's that for you?
Yeah, it's it was a natural progression. Uh, my major in college was mass communication. I've been inducted to the Hall of Fame of my college this year. Fran did the video for
What?
me.
Okay, I didn't know that, Fran. Do you got a copy of that?
Yeah. I do, yeah. So basically, the Rudy recommended me to the college to film his induction ceremony video, and I did, man. It was really cool, and I was honored to do it, man. For such a
that's fantastic. I hope we get a chance to see that online or something, Fran. Anyway,
it is online. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. I'm sorry. I didn't. Okay, it's online.
Yeah. Ray Parker Jr. was very kind, who is Fran's partner. Very kind to allow us to shoot at his studio. So that was very cool.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And so again, broadcasting, you studied mass broadcasting, and now you are doing radio 6 degrees from Sarzo. Do you enjoy that process?
So I studied that. I studied, radio, television, motion picture producing and directing. And but I never really got to apply it because when I went to college, FM was coming in. Mm. And I had too much of an accent for American FM radio, but not enough Cuban chutzpah for the ahora con la música de los Led Zeppelin, which was what was happening back then,
Sounds good now, though.
Well, but not good enough for that, I mean, you have to sound like if you had like a pot of a Cuban coffee, by the time you come on. So, but I did learn the trade. I learned everything. I mean, at college, it was so weird because it took me 10 years to actually be able to apply one of the fundamental things that I learned in school, which was lighting. Mm. So when I started playing with Ozzy, I looked at the stage and I went, this is like regular television lighting. You got the back, the fills, and the sides, and I'm going like, oh, so I knew the reason why people remember seeing me on stage is because I always knew where to stand on stage according to the lights. Oh. You could always see me. Even if I didn't have a spot on me, I always knew where to stand. I was never really in the dark. Right. Because I learned that in school, Right. And then when videos, started making videos like, wait a minute, I did this in school. Music videos. Again, it's applicable. It's the same thing. So then I started making a podcast. When I wrote my book, I applied my knowledge of creative writing that I had to learn. I said, wait a minute, I know how to write. I studied this in school. So that's how I approached the book. More like a movie, more like a film. It's a lot of dialogue rather than, like a regular prose kind of novel, basically. And then when I started doing a podcast, basically to document friends of mine, their work in their own words. They could have been people from the film community or other art forms. And then I started doing that as a podcast. It's called The Dash. The dash being that line between the birth date and the death date on a tombstone. The dash, because that's what really matters. The life. And so I get a call from the CEO of Monsters of Rock Radio and says, hey, how would you like to bring your podcast to our station? Which is actually, ironically, it's on the Dash network.
No coincidences.
I had no idea there was a Dash network, Yeah. But anyway, so then I've been doing the radio show for almost 2 years now, and that's my goal, to document musicians, because now it's music centric, and it's a 4-hour show, and we play music and conversation. We do like a couple of segments per show of conversation, and the rest is music. And that's why it's not downloadable, because Dash Network is a subscription and ad-free network. So there's not enough revenues that you have to pay with the licensing of music if it's available for download. So
Right.
it's broadcast, you know.
Got it. Well, I just want to mention that's a great segue into this commentary here very quick. That's why we're not playing for any fans that are of Rudy here. We can't play any of the songs right now because on a live stream, you're right, the licensing would cut us off like a heartbeat. So that's why. But so Monsters of Rock Radio, 6 Degrees from Sarzo. Everybody,
6 degrees off Sarzo. 6 degrees, kind of like
6 degrees off.
Off, yeah. Well, it's kind of like there's this old 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
That's
this little thing that you think, and so it's the same thing. My producer came up with that. Yeah, I thought I loved it when he mentioned it. I said, okay, let's go with it. Yeah, go with it.
Okay, my apologies. 6 Degrees off Sarzo, everybody. So go check that out, please. And you know, you talked about the things you studied in school. Very quickly, you're also, I understand, an avid some sort of like a programmer. Am I reading that right? And like you've
not
done
a programmer. It was just animation.
Animation.
And
like you were doing 3D animations and things like that, right?
Yeah, I've been trained. I'm a trained animator. Actually, I got another call to start working on an actual project that involves animation, but it's like really high technology. And at some point, we're gonna reveal it. Yeah, premiere it. Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting to hear. Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Hey, so that college degree came in handy.
It sure did.
Yeah, something to fall back on.
Yeah.
Something to fall.
Well, I mean, you know, it's kind of like, you know, when the student's ready, the teacher will show up, you know, and it's basically like that. And, you know, when you learn something, that whatever you learn will actually come up in your life at some point and say, I know that. I can do that.
Yeah. No, I love that. I appreciate that. Well, listen, we're getting there. I think I got someone who did a research for me in Calgary, Jackson Singer Concert Hall. Jack Singer. Does that sound right?
Jack Singer. That's the one.
All right. I wanted to make sure we got that in because I love the fact that you're connected with Bank here in Calgary. We're going to find out more about that. I'll do some digging. We'll make sure we get that up on all these Facebook pages. We're near the end here, Rudy. Now, again, we don't know each other. We just literally met today. You know Fran very well, but we don't know each other. And a lot of people who dig into your life probably don't know a lot of things about you. So I have a little thing called This or That. It's just quick little one-liners. You just say the first answer that comes to your mind. I'll just give you a choice between the two. And through this process, we'll get a little tiny glimpse inside of Rudy. Is that okay with you?
It's like a Freudian. One of those, show me a card. What do you see?
Fran's going to play along. I get Fran to play along because I want to keep him honest as well. On every show, I want to make sure he's always telling the truth. So this is why we keep it honest here. So let's just try this again. My first one, I don't know, your choice of this, whether you drink alcohol or not. But I'll do the first one: whiskey or wine. Whiskey or wine.
Well, when I used to drink, I haven't had a drink since '97. It would be wine.
So I did not know 97. So tea or coffee then? Yeah. Tea or coffee? Tea or coffee?
It all depends. If I'm flying, I'll have tea, hot tea. Oh, actually, I drink iced tea. If I'm home, I'll drink coffee. Got
it. Fran?
Always coffee.
Always coffee. Okay. Yeah. Back to the questions, Rudy. Spider-Man or Batman?
Oh, Batman.
Spider-Man.
60s music or 80s music?
Oh, 60s.
Fran?
80s.
Yeah. Stones or Beatles?
Oh, that's a tough one. Beatles.
Yeah, say it. Always the Beatles. Yeah.
All right. For traveling, Europe or the Caribbean?
Damn. Well, I grew up in Miami, so I've been to the beach most of my life. So I'll go with Europe.
Yeah, Europe here too. Yeah.
Got it. Convertible or truck?
Wow. Convertible.
Convertible.
Sunrise or sunset?
Oh, I see. I watch both. I like the sunrise.
I like sunset.
How about this one? Fame or relevance?
Famous fleeting, relevance can actually maintain. If you maintain relevance through your career, you're going to be fine. Fame will come and go.
The same. Yeah.
Well said. Well said. How about this last one? I'll have a sentence for you to finish after this, but last one here. Hope or freedom?
Ooh, freedom above anything. If you're free, then you're free to hope.
Wow. Well said. Finish this sentence for me if you can. I love my life because
I'm blessed.
Because I'm blessed. Fantastic, my friend. Yeah, you certainly are. And you blessed us with your time today. So we super appreciate that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. So thank you so much, Rudy. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Fran, thank you for, bringing these worlds together. It's such a joy. Again, I highly recommend everyone to follow Rudy, obviously, on social media. You can listen to his radio show. If you want to know more in depth about, the Aussie years and all the years, go out and get his book. His book is available. All the stories are there. And of course, go out and see Hired Gun, or you can see it on Amazon Prime. Rudy, you did an amazing job. We appreciate the vulnerability and the storytelling inside a Hired Gun. So thank you for doing that. We appreciate
thank you. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in Calgary.
Yes. I'm so excited now to keep. We're going to chat. Going to chat. We got lots to chat about. Thanks to everybody on Facebook.
I hope to see you at the Commons as soon as everything opens back up with Willow and the wife.
But so you're going to be driving to the Commons?
Well, my office is in Calabasas, so I'll have to. Yeah.
Great. So nothing really changes.
Nothing changes. Just my living location. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Oh, that's why I'm so jealous. That's why I'm so jealous. You guys can just jump on the highway and get together. I just love it. I got to wait for the planes to kind of let me in. So we'll do it another time. Thanks everyone for watching on Facebook and across social media. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, Fran. Everyone, you take care. Peace, everybody.
See you later.